Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our Uganda webinar, looking at a sustainable approach to travel in Uganda. With me today, I have Jill Siebert from DMC Reps. She's our head of operations for Europe and Asia Pacific. Also, we have our guest speaker with us today, Prince Sabina from Redroad Tours. And a little introduction to me. I am Simon Hemmings. I'm the head of team for the UK and Ireland. If you're not familiar with DMC Reps, we're a sales and marketing representation company. We specialize in DMCs. We have over 55 DMCs from around the world. And we're very fortunate to have one of those with us today to host this webinar. That's about it from me. So I'm going to hand over to Jill now.
Thank you, Simon. Auch von mir nochmal ganz herzlich willkommen an alle deutschsprachigen Teilnehmer. Vielen Dank, dass ihr alle erschienen seid. Simon hat ja schon soweit alles Wichtige gesagt. Falls es Fragen gibt, dann könnt ihr die gerne während des Webinars in unseren Chat stellen und wir oder Prince beantworten die dann am Ende des Webinars. Und ich will das jetzt auch gar nicht weiter aufhalten und würde sagen, over to you, Prince. Prince, you're on mute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Prince Sabina, and I'm the owner and also the managing director of Redroad Tours, based in Kampala, Uganda. And I'm excited to be able to speak to you today and share with you a webinar on a sustainable approach to travel on the continent. Jill, would you mind allowing me to share?
I already did.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, so as I said, my name is Prince, and I represent DMC Reps represents us for Destination Uganda. And as I begin this webinar, I just want to invite you all to come to Uganda when you get a chance, especially now that the world is starting to open up again. And myself, I have been involved in travel for the last 14 years, and I began working primarily with local communities here in Uganda. And one of the things that before I was involved in travel that bothered me was the whole mentality or the subject or the line that is used, "This is Africa," which is a mantra often used to excuse a lack of professionalism in the industry, a lack of organization and excellence, and being as someone who was using the travel services in the country, I felt that there was a lot lacking in professionality. So really, that's where my story begins from, and also just seeing that there was a lot more that could be done in the travel industry. So I started Redroad Tours in 2010, and our goal really was to not only professionalize the travel industry, but also to diversify and enhance the travel experience in Uganda. Because what was there was mainly going on safari, but not much else, I'm not saying safari is not good, it just was not enough. We felt that there was a lot more for people to experience in the destination. And therefore, that is how we were born. Uganda is where we're based, in Kampala. However, we've since grown, and we now offer experiences, not just in Uganda, but also in Kenya and Rwanda, and the most recent in Tanzania. What we do is we mainly specialize in tailor-made packages for FITs and also groups. We're very intentional about providing cultural immersion experiences, as well as other off the beat path adventure activities that you can do within the region. We also I've also been doing a lot of volunteer opportunities as part of some of the cultural experiences that we offer. Now, the reason why I'm here today is to talk to you about providing authentic immersion experiences on African safaris. And I really want to make the case for this because this is something that we feel is not done enough on the continent, not just even here in Uganda. Now, we believe that conservation and sustainable tourism are key to the survival and the success of tourism in Uganda and on the continent at large. We think that for African tourism to reach its potential, conservation has to be key because the African person has to take a big role in tourism and participate in it. We also think that for the modern traveler today who's traveling, they also desire to connect and engage beyond the tourist gates. And so for that to happen, we think that tourism has to go beyond just the game parks and the safaris. So in this presentation, I plan to share with you some of the success stories that we've had in sustainable tourism. One of them is the gorilla trekking, or with Dr. Gladys Zikusoka, as well as tracking lions in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and also some of the village tours that we offer in the region. Now, traditionally, when somebody thinks of traveling to Africa or to Uganda, usually the first thing that comes to mind is going on a safari and looking at the usual African wildlife. And that's been really the typical experience of someone coming to Africa. If it's not safari, then you're usually thinking about, the impoverished Africa, the mud huts, the street kids. And yet that's not all that Africa and Uganda specifically has to offer. We believe that more than just wildlife, the people and culture are the region's strength. We believe that and yet not a lot has been done to harness this. So just like other continents like Europe and Asia, people and culture take center stage when you travel to these destinations. Whereas when you come to Africa, it's not the people or the culture, it's usually the animals. And so we want to change that narrative. And we think that immersion experiences, especially cultural experiences, make travel richer because they involve people. And people from within the destination have a way of helping travelers get to a deeper level and understanding of the destination and experience it in ways that they haven't experienced it before. So then, how do you go about providing these people-centered activities or adventures in such a way that you don't lose the authenticity? The current attempts tend to fail that we've seen, especially when we were coming into the industry. A lot of the attempts that are there were providing cultural experiences, but many times lose the authenticity. And the reason why they lose the authenticity is because these are done to suit the traveler who's coming. And so they're many times staged activities. For example, I've done a lot of the Masai Mara cultural, the Masai cultural village tours, and many times they're staged, and so you're not able to go deeper to understand this culture, to appreciate it, to know the people, because it's all about paying that $30 and visiting a Manyata, and then buying a few souvenirs. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't give you enough of what you would hope to get on a cultural experience. So what is our approach as Redroad Tours? We believe in partnerships. We work hard to form partnerships with local communities, whether that is a community, a village near a park, or even within the park, making relationships with some of these wildlife communities. So because we believe that when there is partnerships and respect, then you tend to have authenticity. This is where you get experiences that are more natural and more enjoyable. And so there are two aspects of these partnerships that we've worked towards. One is providing wildlife experiential tours, and two is providing community tourism. And that's really been our focus. And I'm going to share with you some of our wildlife experiential tours that we've worked at creating. So in Uganda, for example, we've worked with Dr. Gladys Dikuzoka, who is a scientist by profession who has spent the last 15 years working with the gorillas in Burundi. And our travelers get to join Dr. Gladys on one of her expeditions, and they get to visit the gorillas, and it gives a different perspective. Visiting the gorillas alone is such a wonderful experience, and I can't say enough of it. I've seen them multiple times, but I never get enough. However, going with Dr. Gladys to see these gorillas gives you an insider's perspective that you would not get on a regular gorilla trekking experience. And Dr. Gladys not only works with the gorillas, but she also works with the communities around the gorilla, where the gorillas live. And so she's worked hard at creating a sustainable model for these gorillas and the human communities around to live in harmony. And so our travelers really enjoy going with her and learning about these gorillas and seeing some of our activities in these communities and what they're doing. We've also worked in Queen Elizabeth there's a lion tracking experience tour. For many years, lions were being killed in Queen Elizabeth National Park. And the reason is the park also has a lot of human settlements. So the park alone has about 20 villages that live there, of human beings that live there, and they have their farms, they have their cattle, but the lions, will once in a while, especially in the drought, attack these animals, and so the people would retaliate and end up killing these lions. And so this lion tracking program is a way of deterring this. And so instead, our conservationists offer lion tracking tours for our travelers. In exchange, the money that our travelers pay for this goes towards compensating the villages that have been affected by lion activity. If they've lost an animal to the lions, then this money goes towards replacing these animals. It also goes towards relocating some of these people so that they can be at a place where they can live without the disruption of the wildlife. And so it's been a great way of helping the people appreciate tourism, these villages, while also helping our travelers get an insight into lion behavior and being part of this experience. And so they get to track these lions, using GPS on game drives. And it's not just the lions that you get to see in this experience. You get to also get up and close to other animals as well. And so some of the highlights of this experience is, you get up close to the lions. The thrill of the search is also just as fun, going out early morning at 5 a.m. to look for these creatures and eventually finally pouncing on them. And then just learning about, their behavior, their interaction with human settlements is such a helpful insight. Now, the other one too is in both Uganda and in Kenya, we've also worked with a rhino rescue and tracking program. In Uganda, in the 80s, the rhinos were poached almost to extinction. And so there's a sanctuary here that was formed, and the purpose of this sanctuary is to protect the rhinos, but also to raise them back to the numbers that they were pre wars of the 80s. And so it's a great experience to be able to go and track these rhinos on foot and learn again about their behavior, see about what it takes to keep these alive, and really come up close to them. It is such a thrilling experience. And again, it goes towards what we like about this program. Again, the community is involved in it, because without the community's involvement, these rhinos don't have a chance. They will still get poached. And so the communities benefit from this rhino tracking experience. In Kenya, these rhinos already, there's a lot more poaching activity in Kenya. And so some of the rhinos are being rescued, baby rhinos, like you're seeing in this picture, and they're being fostered until they're old enough to be sent back to the wild. Another way that we found we've had success in providing these wildlife experiential experiences is through private conservancies. In Kenya specifically, there's multiple private conservancies that have done a great job in conservation, and these are run privately by private businesses or people, not by the government, and it's a great way for our travelers to participate in wildlife experiences, but in a sustainable way. And so we like to work with some of the conservancies in central Kenya, and our people get to go on some of the, you can only do like a horseback safari in a private conservancy, or you go on a camel ride in the conservancy. But at the same time, you get to visit, get to learn about what they're doing to protect these animals, what they're doing to manage the land, how they're working with the communities around them to make sure the communities are also benefiting from tourism, and appreciate this wildlife and see it as something of value. So that's something that we especially recommend for our small groups, rather than going, for example, especially for people who have been here they've been to Africa before, rather than going to the typical destinations like Masai Mara or Amboseli, rather to go to some of the private conservancies and get a more intimate experience, because these ones, you don't have the numbers of 100 cars looking at one lion. Many times it's just you looking at these animals, and you have this whole expanse of thousands of acres just to yourself, and you get to have a very intimate experience. We've also done community tourism as well, and we've worked with some of the local communities, especially those that are near some of our typical traditional safari activities, to create some village tours as well as home visits. We work with community-based organizations that are already actively involved in their communities to make a difference in some shape or form, and we come alongside them, and we bring our travelers to observe, to participate, and we've found this as a great way for our travelers to have an authentic experience, but at the same time, the hosts feel comfortable. They don't feel like they're being taken advantage of, or they don't feel like they need to pretend to be something they're not. This is in a natural setting, and so we've enjoyed hosting some of our travelers for this. For example, in Uganda, near the source of the Nile, we work with an organization that works with single mothers who ordinarily would lose their children to orphanages and eventually get adopted. So instead, they work with them and teach them how to create income-generating activities so they can really take care of their children. So we usually do like home visits, also community visits. Like, for example, here in the same community, we do these quad bike tours. And because of the relationship we have with these communities, it's easier for them to allow us to come in, and then we can do these quad bike tours within these villages. And it's such a great experience. It's a great way to experience the village, because you take all these back roads, you see the backyards of homes, meet kids and people, and our people have really enjoyed those. Even in Kampala, for example, we've done these ghetto tours in some of the low-income areas, and we work with we call them border borders, which is the bike taxis that we've trained, and our travelers get to hop on these motorbike taxis, and we visit some of these ghettos. And again, we work there with another community-based organization that rescues kids off the street, and we'll go in and we'll watch them do their work. We'll also, if necessary, we'll get involved. We can help with. They have a food pantry. They get to feed some of the kids there. And so the kids are used to these people. We're not strangers. So it's easier for us to come in because we're going with people who are in this community on a regular basis. And so they're not strangers to them. They can just be themselves. You'll see the good and the bad from them. And you will get to meet some very interesting people. We also are part of the same tour. We get to visit a local market nearby, and other people get to do some souvenir shopping in the local market. So these are some of the experiences we offer, and we even have a few others that are we're working hard to get set up. For example, in the Masai Mara, we also work with another conservationist. Her name is Dr. Caroline Bueno, to set up another lion conservation program in there. So all that to say, for us as Redroad Tours, when our travelers travel with us, they know that we are a tour operator that goes beyond the tourist gates, and we're committed to uncovering richer experiences for our travelers that go beyond the traditional experiences, because we believe those two, when put together, make for a greater experience of travel. So as I wind up, I just want to share with you why work with us, why work with Redroad Tours. As I said at the start, we believe we're a reliable partner because we seek professionality in what we do. We're very passionate about what we do. We're constantly creating new experiences, working with the local partners. We have a great team here. We really take, we think one of the things that is very typical about here in Africa is that we like to work in generalities. And yet with travel, it's the details that matter. And so we take details seriously. We think if the details are not dealt with, our travelers are most likely to have a bad experience. And so we really take our partnership seriously. We're also proudly local, and we think being from here in East Africa, it really helps us to, we understand the culture, we understand the people, we care about the people, and we live these experiences every day. And so we have the ability to bring out these experiences in ways that others may not be able to. We also take health and safety seriously. We have a team of tour guides that we make sure are trained regularly in first aid administration. We have a comprehensive health and safety plan that we follow, and always we do drills regularly to make sure we know what is expected of us. So that's really all that I can share for today about us. And I just want to say thank you again for giving me some of your time. And I hope you've enjoyed this presentation.
Thank you very much, Prince. A wonderful insight. Thank you for kind of talking us through that. If anybody has any questions for Prince regarding Redroad Tours, Uganda in general, or any questions about the presentation, please use the chat box. We've got a few minutes now where we can pick up your questions, and I'll read them out to you. Prince, question from me, and it's always unfortunate that we have to discuss this in these times, but how are things in Uganda at the moment in regards to COVID-19? Are there restrictions in place? How is it working?
Yeah, we in Uganda, of course, we were hit very hard by COVID, and as a travel industry, we're greatly affected. Currently, we're starting to see a revival in terms of the current regulations. Anybody who's traveling to Uganda is required to get a PCR test that is valid, that is taken 72 hours before their flight. And on arrival here, you do take another test as well at the airport, and then you're released. You take another PCR test, which costs $30 here, and which you can pay as well before you arrive. You register for this online. There's a website, and then once you get here, you get tested, and then we have a tourism desk at the airport, and so all travelers are given are expedited. All the travelers who are coming in their process is expedited. They get their test done, and then after that, they go to their hotels, and it takes about 4 hours to get your results. Most of our European flights arrive at night, so usually by morning you have your results. And so If it's a negative result, you go on with your trip with nothing unencumbered. But if it's positive, then they encourage you to quarantine either at your hotel or to book another flight or to return back to your home. So yeah, that's currently where we are right now. But we are seeing more and more travelers coming in. Within the region, Uganda has some of the, I guess that, everyone has rules right now, but some of the rules that are much more bearable, if I may put it that way. Some of the other destinations, you have to quarantine at a hotel while you wait for results. So that's the current status in Uganda.
Okay, so I mean the questions come in regarding where you would stay. So whilst you're waiting for your test result to come in, are there particular hotels that you would be taken to, or is it that you can after taking your test you can go on to the hotel that you've booked and then wait there for it?
Yes, the rule is you go to your hotel of choice. Wherever you have booked, that's where you go. And like I said, 4 hours later, you get your results. I tested this recently because I recently traveled to South Africa, so it was good for me to see this myself. And that, personally, since I'm a resident, I went home, and then the next morning I woke up with my results. And so I went on with my day.
Okay. So that sounds fairly straightforward. Is there any, talks of even easing those restrictions from the government?
Yes, we are trying to, especially the tourism fraternity is trying to ask the government to reduce some of these restrictions, especially for those who are vaccinated, so that maybe they don't have to take the test at the airport on arrival. It's because the issue right now we're having is the cost of travel. And so if you have to take 2 PCR tests, one before you leave and one on arrival, we're asking maybe they should eliminate one of them. Most of our travelers, their countries of origin tend to have a costly PCR test compared to the cost of one taken here in Uganda at the airport. Ours is only $30. So we're trying to ask, why don't we just remove the one that you have to take before you leave and stick with the one that you can take at the airport on arrival.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Prince. I can't see any more questions coming in at the moment. So what I'd say to anybody sitting on and listening, Jill and I will do some follow-up, send some emails out to you where we'll send you a link to the recording. The recording of this will go on to our YouTube site, and we'll send through links so that you can see that. If anybody has any questions and they pop in your head when you've gone off the video, that's absolutely fine. Just respond to the email and we'll pass those questions on to Prince and get back to you as soon as possible. Equally, if you want quotations or you'd like to connect with Prince and Redroad Tours, that is what we're here for. Please contact us and we will put you in touch with him. So that's all from us today. Jill, do you have anything to add?
All perfect. Thanks, Simon.
Okay, then thank you very much everybody for joining us, and Prince, thank you so much for being our guest speaker today. I look forward to hopefully seeing you on future webinars and listening to more of what you have to say.
Thank you too for this opportunity, and hope to see you guys in Uganda someday.
I hope to join you. Okay, bye for now. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.